Hi everyone. I think thanks for joining us today. We're going to talk about for our webinar this afternoon, where we'll be talking about the IBP, integration and the migration from ePPDS and aATP, GATP to the S4 solutions. We're going to give a few more minutes to get everyone on site, and for people to get logged on. It takes a little bit here, so give me about another minute or so and we'll get started. Okay. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We're going to have a pretty interesting session this morning still. We're going to be talking today about advanced planning and optimization, taking APO through the S4 PPDS and global ATP processes, which are embedded PPDS and advanced ATP. So thanks everyone for joining us. We're going to go ahead and we're going to record at this point. And all of our sessions, this will be the third, this is our third session of 4 sessions that we have kind of around these topics, around going from IBP from APO to IBP, and then APO to ePPDS and ATP. And the next one coming up in, I think, about 2 weeks will be our last and the final session, where we'll talk a little bit more about inventory and the migration there. So again, thanks for everyone for joining. I'm going to kind of, as an agenda today, let's see, can everyone see my screen?
No, not yet.
No, not yet. Hold on, let's see if you can see my screen. What about now?
Now.
Good? Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone. So today I have 2 distinguished panelists, and we're going to kind of go through from SAP joining us today, who will be talking about the ePPDS and the aATP solutions. And then we'll kind of, our agenda today will be talking, let's see if I get this done here, through ePPDS and aATP. Let's see, am I trying to get this? Okay, so our agenda today will be talking about who we are and why we're here, and then we'll, and again, the focus today will be on the APO to S4 considerations, and then kind of what the digital supply chain looks like, an introduction, and then what is S4 HANA, how does it relate to SAP APO, and then we'll talk through the PPDS and advanced ATP transitions, how they've been positioned within the SAP solution, the overall planning solution. Talk through the overview of production planning and detailed scheduling, how it fits within S4 and ePPDS. And then later date, we'll kind of talk about the general conversion approach for PPDS. But before that, we'll talk through the advanced available to promise. We have kind of a late change in our agenda and our kind of flow of the presentation today. And then finally, we'll talk through project considerations, things along best practices and tips from the project front lines to kind of say, hey, what are the things that you should be taking into consideration when you move to a project, or some of the things you need to be prepared for as you move from one project to the next, right? If you migrate from APO into the S4 solutions, ePPDS and aATP. Okay, so first off, we're going to kind of real quick introductions. My name's Pat Green. I'm a partner here at SCM Connections, and I've been about a 20-year practitioner within SAP supply chain solutions. So one of the early adopters for SAP APO PPDS. Have worked the past 5 or 6 years with IBP, supply demand, inventory, and supply response. So our focus here at SCM Connections is really kind of about taking the solution and then making sure we're getting good value for our clients through the solution, enabling the software to make sure we put the process and the technology in place to get good results for our customers. So it's a little bit about me. Joining us today will be Ulrich Mast and Sujit Arkarya, and they're from SAP, and I'm going to kind of let them give a quick introduction of themselves and kind of where they fit within the SAP landscape. Uli, if you want to kind of...
Yeah, sure, yeah. So my name is Uli Mast. I'm working in global solution management in the area of manufacturing, and I'm solution owner for this topic of production planning and detailed scheduling. 23 years with SAP. I also started my career as a consultant, and since 11 years, I'm right now in the role of this in solution management.
Right.
Hello everyone, my name is Sujit Acharya. I am part of the solution management organization for digital supply chain, same team as Uli, and joined the solution management team almost same time as Uli as well. And I have been with SAP for more than 17 years now, initially in the development, and then started my solution management journey from 2008 onwards. And I am currently responsible as the global solution owner for the ATP topic. And happy to be here.
Yep. Well, thanks for joining us. It should be a really interesting session today. We kind of think through the overall transformation from SAP in the supply chain space. There's a lot going on from your standard, an advanced planning and optimization solution, and then moving into more of a digital supply chain overall, more advanced solutions, and kind of, that whole piece of it is the past 20 or I don't know, say about the past 5 or 6 years has been a real focus for SAP. So, Uli, I'm going to kind of let you give an overview of the next few slides. We'll talk about the transformation strategy and kind of what's currently on the landscape, and then kind of what's coming up.
Okay, sure. I think this slide is a perfect start, because that actually summarizes what has been shown already in this context. So all about the APO Transformation Strategy from SAP. So you covered pretty much already the left-hand side, with IBP. The planning solution for more network-centric planning activities when it comes to sales and operations planning, demand planning, inventory planning, but also operational response and supply planning in the network. So now we are really turning to, let's say, the products on the right-hand side, which are part of the S/4HANA solution landscape. And this is of course addressing the topic of production planning and detailed scheduling, and as well, which some of you know from the PPDS component in APO, but also of course available to Promise as a key element of our classic solution stack in APO, and how we develop them right now further in the S/4HANA environment. So when it comes to production planning, detailed scheduling, you see already there how we do the kind of cut of what the focus is. Really, it's more about the detailed plan-centric view on a detailed, more granular manufacturing environment which we have when it comes to production planning and detailed scheduling. So that's how we divide up network-centric planning and then plant-centric planning. But of course we make sure that integration is seamless, and that there's a whole notion in our roadmap which is about synchronized planning, which looks after this superior integration concepts which then tightly integrate, for instance, a network plan with the site-centric plant in S/4HANA. Yeah? So, but that's high level our strategy, which has been laid out a couple of years ago already, but we are heavily on the execution of the whole strategy, and of course which continues. Yeah, and it's today it's about to give you an update, let's say, on the products on the right hand side. Yeah. Okay, let's go then to the next slide. Yes, so just as a summary, so how this supply chain planning solution overall to enable intelligent enterprise planning. I mean, just it's a lot of it which I mentioned already right now. So you see the major components of the IBP stack, which have been addressed in the previous sessions already. Then we go right now into the S/4HANA stack. And especially talk about production planning and ATP. But I mean, it's really not only about the single components, which you see. It's also about enabling state-of-the-art planning process and leveraging synchronized planning concepts, which I mentioned already, and really enable really responsive and fast planning cycles across these dimensions which you see here. Yeah, so that's the key theme which we have laid out and outlined with our product strategy consisting of S/4HANA and integrated business planning. Yeah, so okay, let's go then and focus a little bit more on the production planning and detailed scheduling piece at the first step. And my phone. Yeah, so so because you have seen this is right now a slide, let's say, really going from supply chain planning more into the manufacturing area, and it's quite interesting to see that the topic of production planning, detailed scheduling is right now, I mean, solution-wise right now organized in manufacturing. So I'm part of the global manufacturing solution management team, and of course this could be also be different, and it used to be different in the past. So where this topic was allocated at the planning area. So, but I mean, it definitely has similar relevance actually in both LOBs. Yeah, and so that's just an additional view and a new view maybe for some of you, where we see production planning and detailed scheduling in the manufacturing context, enabling agile manufacturing strategies, where we have a closed loop to your manufacturing operations and execution levels. So, and enabling here really a lot of superior themes compared to our classic architecture which we had, and we are building out this strategy pretty heavily. So this is something which you will also see more in detail if you dive more into our manufacturing portfolio, which doesn't only consist of production planning. We are also going very deep into dispatching of shop floor orders, really very granular to labor or labor availability and labor qualification. So we are really extending here our portfolio pretty heavily, and which goes beyond the overall production planning and detailed scheduling area which we were addressing in the past with PPDS. Yeah, so this is really also pretty much exciting. But just to give you another spin, how we drive our strategy. But again, it's this topic, PPDS, has its relevance in the planning and also in the manufacturing space. Yeah. Okay, so let's then continue then with the next slide and go a little bit. What do we have achieved there so far in S/4HANA? And I think that's very interesting for those of you who are not so much into the S/4HANA space yet. So, but it's important to see. So, what have we achieved in overall in production planning in S4HANA, what are our main strategies. And it's not only about PPDS. Yeah. So you know, in our ERP core, we enabled the classic production planning capabilities like MRP, and we have built out these capabilities leveraging our HANA technology, and build it out towards live planning MRP, live planning acceleration of MRP calculations. That there's a whole innovation cycle which has been done in this specific area. So that's something which our customers and S4HANA customers can definitely benefit from, and that's why here in this area, when it comes to production planning and scheduling, it's not only about one single planning philosophy which is addressed. It's really a mix of many capabilities. Yeah. So when it comes to PPDS, it's key that with embedding PPDS in S4HANA, we really embedded for the first time an advanced planning and scheduling system directly in our ERP core. That's something which we achieved with the initial release of S4HANA 16.10. So it's already quite some time back. So we have a very good adoption of our customers, S4HANA customers, with this functionality. So which they have traditionally actually deployed with APO, but now they can really implement it and leverage it in the ERP core directly. Yeah. So, but there are also more more modern topics, if you like, like for instance demand-driven replenishment or demand-driven planning, which gets a lot of traction and attention in our customer base. It's, if you look into the concepts, I don't know who of you is following these strategies closely in detail, but I mean, of course, there are a lot of similarities to classic planning procedures in PP, which we had in the past. But on the other hand, it's also really a new dimension if you look at this concept from the end-to-end perspective. Yeah, so it's heavily driven by the Demand-Driven Institute, which developed the concepts, and SAP has been implementing this concept in S4HANA already with the release of S4HANA 17.08, so a cloud release for S4HANA, but it's similar available also in on-premise shipments. Yeah, so which just come by yearly shipments. So looking a little bit more in the future, or it's also key that having these concepts or these strategies or these planning philosophies right now all available in S4. There's of course also the notion of the combination of it. Of course, you can run MRP live procedures together with PPDS planning heuristics. This can address some major advantages if you compare this behaviors with classic APO setups. There's also the combination of advanced planning and scheduling, or scheduling in general, with demand-driven replenishment. This is just something which we have recently focused on and building out. So very exciting to see that these major planning concepts really come together and drive innovation in S4HANA. Let's go to the next slide. Maybe just to summarize a little bit, how is our strategy when it comes to production planning in S4HANA? Really coming a little bit more from the ERP space, from the classic PP. So what you see here is in blue, with the blue rectangular, and with the in gray, actually with the gray boxes, is the classic world of PP in ECC. So with the transactions in the long-term planning area, in the MRP area, in the area of how to evaluate planning MRP results with the MD04, MD06 transactions. So I mean, which more or less all our SAP ECC customers are using heavily. And you see with the green stickers, let's say the new world, the innovations which we have done in S4HANA in the PP space, implementing actually new user experience, leveraging Fiori technology, really trying to replace the classic transactions with modern MRP cockpits, but also MRP, new innovations, MRP Live, concepts, so which I mentioned already, which are based on the HANA technology, and being able to really accelerate the MRP calculations a lot. Yeah, so also here on the right-hand side, when it comes to evaluations, capacity monitoring, interactive pacemaker scheduling. So also in the production scheduling area, so there are innovations in PP which customers can benefit from. But there's clearly the let's say the difference and the distinction from an embedded PPDS solution point of view, which looks more after the APS approach, which is about advanced planning and scheduling, trying to automate and providing finite production plans and schedules out of the box, which go beyond the classic MRP procedures. Yeah, so in purple, or in also here the elements which are also new in terms of predictive MRP, for instance, a new concept which looks at long-term planning and has been completely rebuilt from scratch. Demand-driven MRP as a concept, this is also completely new. Yeah, and in the production execution area, you see similar concepts, the classic transaction, which helped here customers, and also in green and purple right now, newer topics. Okay, but let's then really go into the PPDS side of the house, and look at what have we done in terms of PPDS in S/4HANA, so where we are at the moment, and where are we heading to? Yeah? So this is really quite exciting, because I mean, one key difference to what we have seen in IBP, which is a complete new development of these components on the IBP platform. When it comes to PPDS, it's the lift and shift of the APO functionality, which we have developed then in an APO environment, and so which we enable right now also to run in S/4HANA. So it's S/4HANA. So it's really a lift and shift of this PPDS functionality right now, also in S/4HANA. So that means, of course, also that in PPDS we leverage, of course, the live cache, so-called live cache, so our in-memory database, which we had in APO times already. It's part of the S/4HANA platform, so you don't need this a separate instance more to hold the data based on a MaxDB, for instance. So it's all based on the HANA embedded live cache. So which some of you might also know already from APO times. So this HANA embedded live cache was already possible to activate for those APO customers who went already in APO on HANA. Yeah. So but here in S/4HANA, of course, we go beyond that. So of course we have to feed our PPDS data structures. We have to replicate data from the ERP stack into the PPDS environment. And this is pretty much done with the core interface, but this has been highly simplified in terms of how data is synchronized. We are working here with synchronous updates rather than queued and transactional updates. So this drives, of course, then much more consistency in your planning results. So the whole aspect of monitoring should be facilitated and by far better right now in the embedded S/4HANA PPDS. When it comes to let's say simplifications, we also leverage then, of course, to work with consistent master data. So for material master and at work centers, so there is no replication of master data anymore. You just by simply checking a product to be planned in the PPDS environment or material to be planned in the PPDS environment, then you activate more or less the integration to the PPDS world. So this is much more simplified and easier to control than in the APO way. Yeah. So on the UI harmonization, we also started to invest and leverage Fiori technology. You see here 2 examples to monitor capacity overloads on a Fiori screen, and then also enabling planners to leverage a Gantt chart with the Fiori control has also already been shipped with the initial release. But here, we are heavily building out right now our capabilities when we later walk to the roadmap as well. I think I have to hurry up a little bit, but important to mention, let's say, where we are at the moment. So you see maybe the years between 1610 and 2020, between these releases, there hasn't been so much functional innovation. So with 2020 release, we heavily started to invest and deliver again functionality. The so-called PP solver approach has been shipped October last year, which gives our customers complete new possibilities how to create a final production plan, replacing really MRP approaches. And this is new. I will talk about this in more detail. Of course, there's the whole aspect of IBP process integration with synchronized planning, which has been enabled and comes stepwise right now. This is also a key theme which keeps us busy with the releases to come. And pretty important is for right now for PPDS is the whole aspect of new innovations which we have announced on the roadmap. Yeah, there has been just the first shipment of 2021 release in early October, which is really then showing the innovations which we previously have updated on our roadmap last year, and now we are starting to deliver. Yeah, so 2 highlights maybe here, just to mention, demand-driven scheduling is a key innovation which we have shipped recently. Tank planning we are just starting. We started to deliver right now. Here increasing our capabilities and go beyond everything what we had in APO. So let's go then in more detail on the of one of our innovations of 2020. Maybe just to summarize, and I think this is something which we can then you can build out the slide completely. So because this is right now highlighting, I mean, what PPDS is all about. Making sure that you create a feasible and production plan which takes all the constraints into account, which can be multiple. I mean, not only machine capacity and setups, dynamic setups, which you maintain typically in a setup matrix. It's also about a production layout, so resource networks, alternative resources which are modeled, component availability. So all this makes up a good plan. It's only a good plan if it's feasible, if it can be executed on the execution level. So and then PPDS with this data model makes sure that that this is done. Is going to be happened. So maybe just for the sake of time, let's really then walk into one of our major capabilities which we enable right now in S/4HANA. So you know that PPDS really divides up into 2 major categories. One is about production planning. Second is about detailed scheduling. When it comes to production planning, which is about creating orders, and historically we used in this environment MRP heuristics, but also there have been dedicated PP heuristics available, which also have been able to look at capacity as well. But let's say the majority of our customers leveraged PPDS with the first step of running an infinite MRP, and then with the second step during detailed scheduling step, which actually looked at the capacity aspect and sequence constraints which we have modeled. Yeah, so right now with S/4HANA we have a new concept of a so-called production planning optimizer, PPO, which is a leveraged mathematical algorithm, linear program. So it works cost-based. It's pretty similar to what those customers who used SNP optimization in the past is right now also available directly consumable in the PPDS environment. Yeah, so the cost model can be maintained right now. The corresponding cost elements to drive the plan can be completely maintained in the PPDS environment, and the bucket-oriented PDS structures is directly generated out of the PPDS PDS. So this is the concept which we have shipped. So it's really exciting, good adoption in our customer base right now, and but also looking forward right now with future release that here customers can really go beyond many constraints which maybe in APO times haven't been not addressed good enough. Yeah. So, and maybe to just also highlight here the difference to IBP. Really, we're looking here at more more detailed production constraints when it comes to PPDS. So this can also look at the smaller granularity. So we are not constrained by a daily bucket. This can also look at a shift bucket, hour bucket. So so that's the direction which we are looking at here. Yeah. So I think there's one slide which explains a little bit the difference between classic PP algorithms compared to this new production planning optimization algorithm right now. So some of you might know the wave heuristic, a classic PP heuristic, which can create orders and looks at capacity. But you see here on the left-hand side the capabilities, for instance, to look at multi-level planning, to doing proper lot sizing, looking at push production, product prioritization, resource prioritization. All of this really had clearly limits when this was tried to be achieved with classic heuristics. Yeah. So right now with this PPO approach, leveraging the cost model and the LP, so we have by far more capabilities to drive the corresponding results which customers would are looking for. Yeah. So I think this should be on a very high level. Should make the difference clear. Yeah. So and maybe just as a second element, of course, of PPDS and here, you know, it's we are starting really from the capabilities which we have in the detailed scheduling area, which is a lot in the end. If you look at the UIs which we deliver here with the graphical planning board, but also the algorithms, heuristics, optimizer, but scheduling optimizer, of course, which help the customers to create a feasible schedule, leveraging the PPDS data and being able to do simulations, what if analysis. I think many of you who are using PPDS, I mean, there's nothing new about it, but it's important that that we drive. I mean, right now in S/4HANA innovations, and I think that's a good segue then to go into the roadmap section for PPDS, because that's I mean, very important, because as mentioned before, with October last year, we have for the first time announced a 3-year roadmap for PPDS again, actually, which just has been extended mid of October this year. So we moved, let's say, the recent innovations right now one step to the right. Yeah, so we shipped already the 2021 release, and we build out right now also the announcement and for 2024. Yeah, so but let's look at a short snapshot at the most recent innovations which we have shipped. I mean, a key theme in the area of business innovation, it's really about tank planning. I mean, those customers who looked into these capabilities in APO times, they might have faced some pushback when trying to implement it with your organizations, that maybe some capabilities or some components or some functionality was missing. We did right now a shipment to enable to address especially the visualization of tanks and also the interactive planning of tanks quite significantly right now. Actually, this was done in combination or with a co-innovation customer who customized this in APO times already pretty nicely, and which was using that pretty heavily since quite a while. And so we have this right now enabled right now in our standard application with 2021. But in 2022 and 2023, we go really beyond that. Also, getting rid of some limitations in the modeling of tanks, for instance, enabling tank splits. And also in the last step, looking for more automation when it comes to tank planning. So that's clearly, it's a key theme in PPDS of our overall roadmap, which we are just in the execution mode here. Maybe just in very short time-dependent data, because this is very important, and there has been, let's say, in the initial release of S4HANA, some scope reductions, or if you compared it to APO and now we enabled this again, to work with time-dependent safety stock, also providing visualization of that, in our transactions. So here really we are building out right now the capabilities and also going beyond what we had in APO times. PPO will be a key development topic also right now in future releases. We have shipped right now this 2021 capabilities, where we integrate the PPO with the DS optimizer, so which really makes sure that the bucket planning results is not lost if you run a DS optimization in combination, and also providing visualization of PPO results in our product planning table has been enabled. So good set of new functionality which we are shipped now. Maybe just looking at the time. I think I just summarized that there's much more innovation which has been communicated and laid out, and maybe one topic which also has been shipped already as a pre-shipment. For PPDS, it's important that those customers who are running are not yet on the ESC or S4HANA transformation journey and still want to leverage S4HANA PPDS. They can run S4HANA PPDS also with all the innovations as a sidecar approach. This is something where we have already some live customers. So we have been shipping this in February this year. And building also some capabilities right now further out. So this will stay as an option for our customers. So either run it embedded PPDS as part of the S4HANA ERP stack, or as a sidecar to the classic ECC, but maybe also to S4HANA for those customers who look for more flexibility of a planning system compared to ERP system. Okay, I think I leave it there.
Thanks, Uli. Appreciate all that. There's a lot of information to take hold there, and so appreciate your time and everything. And just so there's a couple, I'll send out this deck later, and there's a couple links around where to get the roadmaps specifically. And then the other thing I would just kind of mention on your DSC, which is really kind of an opportunity for clients to, before they go on their S4 journey, to kind of move into the S4 space with ePPDS and the embedded PPDS, especially depending on their landscape and what's been architecturally been implemented, et cetera. So that kind of does a sidecar option, which, if depending on where a customer is in their journey, and what their architecture looks like, potentially a possibility. So yeah, at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Sujit, and he's going to bring us into ATP and kind of what's next on the agenda for SAP, and kind of where we stand on the transformation from global ATP to advanced available promise. So Sujit, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so thank you, Pat. So let's go quickly through the same journey that what we did with PPDS, same thing that we will discuss about ATP as well, that where we are currently and what is the approach that our customers should take to move from our APO to S/4HANA and the roadmap. So very quickly, so talk about the ATP evolution. So as you can see in the left hand side, so if you go further, so we see in the left hand side, we had the ATP, the basic ATP functionality that majority of our SAP ECC customers have been using. And of course, so we have the APO GATP functionality, which performs the sophisticated ATP functionality in a separate box of APO. So we had fairly successful implementations in APO for GATP. However, we get a lot of questions or concerns about that. Okay, why can't ATP being such close to execution, that okay, why can't more ATP customers who are using ECC ATP utilize the GATP functionality directly in the ECC box? And that is exactly what we did in our strategy. We decided that okay, we will bring the advanced ATP functionality in the S/4HANA box itself to utilize all the S/4HANA capabilities that are there, as well as to utilize because for ATP, performance is a very big thing, right? We have many customers who run ATP process for hundreds of thousands of orders every night, and we have also customers who are running ATP for millions of orders. So performance is a very big thing. So we wanted to use the ATP capabilities, the S/4HANA capabilities being part of the digital core itself. So as you see in the right hand side, so we have the basic ATP functionality available as it is in S/4HANA on-prem version. But what on top of that, unlike PPDS, which Uli has mentioned that okay, is a lift and shift from APO, unlike that, we have built advanced ATP from scratch in the S/4HANA box itself. It's technically part of S/4HANA, however, it is a separate license, just as APO GATP is. So if we can go to the next slide, so we can see that okay, what is advanced ATP? So basically, advanced ATP in a nutshell, that okay, whenever there is a demand element like a sales order or a stock transport order is coming into the system, then it asks the system that okay, when can I commit the order based on the availability. So if looking at the supply, you confirm the orders. That is the work of the basic ATP. But the real trick is that okay, when the supply is less than the demand, and that is predominantly the case in most of the scenarios, at that point of time, which orders needs to be confirmed ahead of which order. And if there are not enough stocks to fulfill a particular demand, then what are my alternatives? And then when I'm doing collectively order confirmation, then I need to consider the business priorities and profitability. And that is where advanced ATP comes into picture. So in a nutshell, if you ask me that, okay, what is the major difference between the basic ATP and advanced ATP, is the consideration of this additional criteria other than the availability is the difference between basic ATP and advanced ATP. So since we are building advanced ATP from scratch, so if you go to the next slide, so there are certain strategy that we have taken. Like we wanted to make it as simple as possible, because majority of our APO customers always complain about that, okay, how APO is a very, very complex solution. So this is a perception that has been there for many, many years, since I have been with APO for yeah, so for 15, 16 years now, and I always get this feedback from most of the customers that, okay, yes, it is a fantastic solution with a lot of functionalities, however, it is very complex. So we wanted, and we took that feedback and we wanted to make advanced ATP as simple as possible. So that is the first criteria. The second criteria is that, okay, as I said, that, okay, we wanted to make it as performant as possible because millions of orders are running overnight, and we wanted to be fast, and for that reason, we tried to use the HANA capabilities, as well as we said that, okay, we are not going to do any kind of replication of master data and transaction data, which is already there in S4 HANA system. So we use the same master data and same transaction data that is there in S4 HANA system. So it makes it automatically the solution faster. It is flexible. That means it is available to be deployed in any of the deployment options of S4 HANA, whether it is on-prem, public cloud, private cloud, or HEC. But S4 HANA has to be there in the same, ATP has to be the same S4 HANA system. And of course, we try to build enhanced functionalities there. And last but not the least, it is integrated. So if you go to the next slide, so we see that, okay, how advanced ATP is trying to be integrated with other modules of S4 HANA. So not only that, okay, we wanted to make it as integrated as it was in APO with the planning functionalities, but also it is definitely part of SD, the sales and distribution. We wanted to bring it much closer to manufacturing. So we have this capable to promise functionality, which was there with connection with PPDS, but we wanted to also bring it to other manufacturing aspects like Uli has mentioned. So there are a lot of manufacturing foundation that is there in S4 HANA, like DDMRP or standard MRP, or maybe in future there should be other manufacturing constraints. We wanted to also connect to those manufacturing aspects when you are doing the order confirmation, especially in the make to order scenario. And also last but not the least, that, okay, we wanted to be much more closer to execution. We wanted to have a close tie with transportation management, and that's the reason why you just like PPDS has been moved from the planning to the manufacturing aspect, though it is available, though it is for both manufacturing and planning. Similarly, we have from solution strategy point of view, we have moved advanced ATP into the logistics area so that we can be much more closer to logistics. The advanced ATP, as you can see, is an integrated process, not only in the logistics but also in the planning and manufacturing and sales and distribution. Very quickly to give you some of the solution highlights here. So if you go to the next slide, so what are the different functionality that are currently available? We can divide it into three aspects. One is the foundation layer. In the foundation layer, we have the product availability check, backorder processing, product allocation, and order scheduling in the foundation layer. In the first floor of the house that you see, in the left-hand side, we have the cross-industry functionality, which is the alternative-based confirmation, ATP Analytics, interactive ATP, and integrated ATP. And then we look at in the top floor as some of the industry-focused functionalities, these functionalities are coming specifically as requirement from these industries. However, we do not have any industry switch. So that means once a particular functionality is available inside of advanced ATP, any other industry can use it. For example, in the fashion retail wholesale business, we have developed something known as supply protection. But this particular functionality is heavily demanded and is going to be used by consumer product and chemical industry as well. Similarly, for automotive and high-tech industry, they need multi-level ATP supersession, like product substitution functionality, and mill and mining are heavily dependent on the make-to-order scenario or assemble-to-order scenario. So they use the supply creation based confirmation, or previously that as CTP, capable to promise. So these are the broad functionality that are there. Some of the highlights here that, okay, we know what product availability check is, that it is a straightforward ATP confirmation based on the availability. We have the backorder processing. By the way, product availability check is on online ATP check. Backorder processing is mass processing of the orders in an offline mode in a batch run in the night as well. So now we have this requirement segmented backorder processing, where you can define that, okay, how the confirmation should happen for different kinds of order, putting into different buckets like win, gain, redistribute, fill, and do's. Similarly, we have product allocation now. consider both sales constraint as well as capacity constraint, and you can define the sequence that okay, we can have a sales constraint first, and then you do the product availability check, and then you consider the capacity constraint. And this capacity constraint could be manufacturing capacity, or it could be transportation capacity, or any other capacity constraint on which you want to do the confirmation. The other functionality that I want to quickly highlight is alternative-based confirmation. This is a successor solution of rules-based ATP. So basically, whenever a sales order comes and the desired product is not available at the requested plant, then look for alternative. You can look for the alternative in a different plant, or you can look for a similar product in the same plant. So that is what alternative-based confirmation is all about. But how is it different from rules-based ATP in APO GATP is that, okay, it looks for a more dynamic selection of alternative than a fixed selection of alternatives that we had in APO GATP. If you go to the next slide, you will see the two new functionality known as supply assignment and supply protection, which we never had in APO GATP. Supply assignment is predominantly used by the fashion industry, but also we see high-tech and other industry are interested in using this functionality. This is predominantly creating a fixed pegging between the supply element and the demand element, so that the supply stays pegged to the demand, to the sales order, till the actual delivery happens. So this is heavily needed in the fashion industry, and also we see that okay, we are seeing in the high-tech industry and other industry are keen on using that. Supply protection is a brand new functionality, a very interesting functionality. Those who are familiar with APO GATP, they know that okay, we have the product allocation, which provides a maximum cap of how much of confirmation that a particular customer order can have, but there is no minimum guarantee. Supply protection is providing the much needed minimum guarantee for a particular customer order. For example, you want to reserve certain stock for a particular customer, or for a particular region or country, or for a particular planner or whatever. So you can define that okay, how much stocks that you can reserve, so that when the orders come for that particular customer, you have something for in the system. And of course we have ATP Analytics and interactive ATP. So these are some of the screenshots. As you can see that okay, we have prioritized all the screens, and because advanced ATP is a cloud solution, it is available in the cloud and in the public cloud. So naturally we have to have Fiori apps for all these applications. And also in the middle you see the new review availability check result. So one of the major complaints for availability check is that okay, it appeared as a black box, and it was very difficult to understand okay, why an order was confirmed the way it is. So now with the help of this review availability check result, you understand that okay, why an order you requested for 100 quantity, you got 80 quantity today and 20 tomorrow, and why exactly it happened, right? So you know that from this review availability check result screen. Okay, if we go to the next slide, so this is the roadmap, a very high level roadmap. So we started in 2016, as I said that okay, we are building it from scratch. So unlike PPDS, we do not have all the equivalent functionalities of GATP in S4. So we need to be very careful that okay, when we are proposing this move to our customers, and also when our customers are deciding that okay, when they can move from APO GATP to S4. So not all the functionalities are available. Some of them are in the roadmap. So this provides a very high level overview of that. The foundation functionality of product availability check, backorder processing, and product allocation are more or less there. So there are certain functionality that we need to develop there. We have the product substitution and location substitution functionality available this year, and supply assignment and supply protection functionality is also available as of now. The two main functionality that we are currently working on is supply creation based confirmation, which is the ATP integration with manufacturing, or with PPDS we are integrating ATP, and the PPDS or ATP integration with TM. So these are the two functionality that we are currently working on, and which is going to be released in future releases. Okay, so I think yeah, so this is the summary of that, right? So I do not need to don't need to repeat those things. So if you go into the further slides, yeah, so these are the functionality that are coming. And yeah, so one last point here that okay, we have an so this is integrated with planning. So we have some customers who have we have 500 plus customers who have if you go to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have many customers who are have licensed for advanced ATP and have implemented it. So one of the highlights that I want to show here is that, okay, how a particular customer has used both IBP and ATP together. So they do sales and operation planning, they do the demand planning in SNOP, IBP SNOP, they do the allocation planning in IBP response and supply, they move the allocation to S/4HANA Advanced ATP, and those are checked during the online ATP check. So this has been a very successful customer of ours, and we are going to have an official reference there. And last slide from my side is that, okay, to show the highlights of that, okay, we have 500 plus customers licensed, 200, close to 200 customers are already using productively, and this from all different industry segments and different geographies.
Okay.
So that's it from my side. And I will hand it over to, sorry,
that's
I
a lot of information, and I know we don't have we only have an hour here, so thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And so we just have a few minutes left, and I'm just going to kind of go to just really some high level. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes, and then we'll kind of wrap it up. You know, kind of some of the big things that, as you're planning your project and you're migrating from from APO to EPPDS, S4, IBP, et cetera, it's kind of, you know, the biggest thing we have to do early in the project is really understand what your system architecture is going to look like, and really kind of get a feel for what your end game is, right? So the interim steps, as well as kind of the end game of what the overall architecture is going to look like, which systems will perform the key planning functions, right? So where are you going to do your distribution planning? Is that going to be an MRP? Is that going to be an IBP response and supply? Or some customers do it within embedded PPDS. The same thing for your rough cut capacity planning. Ideally, we would do those things, you know, from the overall architecture of SAP is IBP would be, you know, managing all of your kind of long-term scenarios. But really, at the end of the day, not every customer is going to use IBP, and that'll be part of their initial implementation. So really getting a good understanding of what that looks like is one of the key pieces of before you start a project, to really understand when your end game is. And it's critical to determine it off, you know, early in the migration process, so you really know where things will be taking place. And so you'll know also what gaps you'll be taking, or what gaps you'll have potentially in your system, and which functions maybe will be further down your migration path. And then kind of understand too, at this point, some specific functions are not supported necessarily in EPPDS, right? So really you want to, you know, they may be in the future, but they're in an APO and they're not migrating from at this point into PPDS, or they may have taken a slightly different approach to how they solve the problem within EPPDS and S4. So really understanding that, getting where we currently are in the landscape, where our current if there is a gap, understanding where it sits on the roadmap, if it does, and then really kind of taking a key deep dive into saying, okay, how's this functionality? Is it going to be similar to what we're using today? Or will it be something that we've got to take a different approach? Okay. Again, one of the things that I think from a rough cut capacity planning and from the procurement side that we don't talk about here is the ability to use PPO, which is the production planning optimization. That is another kind of curveball that's part of your part of the solution going forward, and maybe not as a spot today that, you know, your organization is ready to take on. So kind of taking all those things into consideration is really kind of the first step that needs to be completed. And then I would say that kind of the second part from the best steps is, you know, when you think through your project and kind of best practices, data transfer in the CIF is, you know, from the projects that we've been on, it doesn't go away, right? So the core interface function for master data and data integration is much simpler than it was in the past. So for the APO to ECC, CIF integration, you know, as those of you who've been on APO kind of know, there could be potentially lots of errors there. That doesn't necessarily go away. It's much more simple, but still, as part of your project, you should understand that there will be some interface errors and master data errors that naturally occur, as well as transactional data errors. And you'll need to have that as part of your group, right? You'll need to have someone have that being monitored, and have someone available to kind of manage that as part of not only your project, but also kind of going on long term. That piece is much smaller than it was with APO, but it's still there, okay? And then finally, from an best practices, right? You know, when you're thinking about your migration from APO to ePPDS and ATP, it's really assessing the design elements, right? Your current APO design elements and mapping those to ePPDS, right? It's looking at all the data enhancements. Number two, looking at your PPDS data enhancements and map those to ePPDS. Master data is managed specifically going forward within S4, and that's kind of the direction that SAP is given. So you want to make, if you've done any enhancements around master data or you have any additional master data objects that are using, you'd want to make sure that you've got that as part of your assessment process, and then understand where those data elements will be used as part of your future design, and then if so, where they're going to be home, where are they going to have a house. And then obviously look at the PPDS enhancements and assess the needs in ePPDS, because some of these things may have been filled that you've used as enhancements in the past, maybe may have been filled with current or future functionality. So the need for the enhancements goes away. And then finally, like we were talking before, implement a SIF strategy as part of the project, right? Master data, transactional data, and reconciliation. Make sure you have that as part of your roadmap. That doesn't go away. And then obviously, the biggest thing here is look for opportunities to improve your processes and streamline functionality based on SAP's kind of standard functionality, right? Look at things like alert monitors, PPDS planning board functionality, as well as other things within your organization that you can actually streamline and use standard processes around. You know, a lot of times in what we've seen in the past is the PPDS implementations, as you go through the process and the project, you tend to become more complex than they need to be. So this is an opportunity to take a step back and say, yeah, does this enhancement or this process really improve our functional solution, or is that just something that was a nice to have at a given point in time, or is no longer required? So really, I think this is an opportunity with our clients to take a step back and really assess where they stand in their current PPDS solution as well as APO solution, and then understand and kind of map out, do a reset to make sure that they're not putting extraneous processes or complex technical solutions on top of something that's already there or is already possible within PPDS. Okay, so I think that's kind of it. I'm going to say thank you to everyone for taking the time today. We've got our little legal disclaimer from SAP. If you have any connection, or if you have any questions or anything additional, don't be afraid to reach out to us at info or us directly at LinkedIn. We will post this on the recording will be posted on YouTube, and then as well we'll send out the slides to everyone who was registered for the event. And any parting thoughts or anything for you, Uli or Sujit, you want to pass along? If not, I'm just going to say thank you for your time and taking the opportunity today, and appreciate everyone's time. And have a nice rest of the week, and thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.